Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live show, and welcome to all your latest Chelsea transfer news. Big up to everyone that's already locked in. Make sure you're smashing up the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, get involved in the chat. And as you can see today, I'm delighted to be joined by Potts, mate. It's good to catch up as always, bro. Plenty to discuss. You know, Arsenal and Chelsea. More your side than our side, but you seem to love picking up the phone to us and giving us a call in the transfer window, and that seems to be continuing. Kepa's gone. Madueke could be the next one. We're going to dive into all that. Could Ethan Nwaneri possibly be coming to Chelsea? And we'll get Potts' thoughts on the Chelsea window. We'll discuss Arsenal as well. So loads to dive into, guys. Packed show as always. But first things first, people, just a reminder, make sure you check out Jerseys FC Soccer Shop. Link is in the description. You can use code BLUEBROTHER for 20% off, guys. Look fresh in the new Chelsea home or away shirt for the upcoming season. Great quality, affordable prices, 20% off. Link is in the description. Use code BLUEBROTHER at checkout. And that's enough of that. Potts, first of all, brother, how are we doing? You good?
I am really good, actually. I wasn't a few weeks ago. I'm starting to get a little bit more calmed down now. I think there was a lot of head loss within the fan base, and I think some of it was justified. Of course, we're all emotional and passionate people, and sometimes we go over the top, but things have started to look on the up a little bit more. I know we're going to get into the players that we've linked with Chelsea, but that's just standard for every season, bruv. Like the last 7 years, we've bought 6-year players, yeah? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think anything that you want to chuck out, we normally pick up and recycle. But what I will say is that the other players that are coming in alongside that look to be quite exciting, mate. So hopefully things are finally picking up for us, man. So thanks for having me on. Big up for always for everyone in the chat. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, people. And yeah, let's talk about the dusty signings that Arsenal are going to get off of you boys again.
Well, I mean, let's do it, mate. I mean, Kepa, do you know what? You can banter about that, but actually, like, joking aside, I actually don't think that's the worst thing in the world. 5 million quid for a number 2 goalkeeper. I actually don't think that's a total disaster. But let's chat Madueke, because when this first started doing the rounds, I was like, I wonder how much legs is actually in this. You hear like teams have got, you know, loads of players on their shortlist and stuff. And you sort of think, well, actually, how high up the list is he? What sort of interest is there from Arsenal? And then the wheels start moving. And then you're like, wow, the personal terms are agreed. 5-year contract. He said yes to it. Arteta likes him. He's bought into the projects, all this and all that. And now it's obviously just a case of agreeing a fee between the two clubs. I mean, before we get into the details, what were your first thoughts, bro, when you sort of started hearing the Arsenal and Madueke links?
Well, firstly, on Kepa, it's a bit of a mess signing for me. It's not one that's exciting. It's not one that's not exciting. He's not going to play. Pedro, I always call him Pedro now. Norbert Neto, sorry, who we had in goal before from Bournemouth, didn't really kick a ball. He played one game against Girona and was horrific, and then we never saw him again. So I imagine we won't see much from Kepa. If he is called upon, he's a goalkeeper that didn't have a shocker last season. I'm not a fan of him. It doesn't excite me. It's not one that I want to be hearing too much about. But for 5 million, and I think he's on a fair wage, I don't think it's one that we're going to be howling at too much. I don't think it's a howler, but I will say that it's just strange that we're going for these Chelsea players that don't seem to be wanted. And it's been going back before Arteta's time, by the way. So this is definitely an Arsenal thing and not an Arteta thing. On the Madueke links, when I first heard it, I honestly thought it was a sick joke, to be honest. I don't rate the player. I'm not saying he's a scrub or he's shocking. I know you don't think he is either, but he's a strange target for that price for Arsenal. And I'll be clear, if he comes in alongside Eze and Rodrigo, I really don't care, if I'm honest with you. If he comes in instead of one of those names, I think it's a total waste of money, and I think it's underwhelming. Now, all he is going to do is back up Saka. I know people can say he can play on the left, but I haven't really seen much of it. He's more of a right-sided player who cuts in. Similarly to how Saka plays, he tries to do what Saka does and fails miserably at it. However, I do think that he would come in and be backup, and that's it. When you're bringing in a backup player, I don't mind bringing in someone who's 25 million to back up Saka. If you're paying double that, that is a hell of a lot of money for a player that I don't really think is anywhere near worth that. Now, I appreciate what people have been saying in the market, that João Pedro is this now and that Jamie Gittins is a lot of money, but I don't feel like Noni Madueke is any better than what Ethan Nwaneri is, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. For me, Madueke is just a strange target for us. I appreciate that he's young and he's English and there might be something about his development that he likes, Arteta. But I can understand Eze and I cannot understand Madueke, bruv, if I'm honest with you. And look, I know that Chelsea fans will be laughing, but I don't actually think Chelsea fans hate on him, unless I'm mistaken.
No.
But I don't think it's a wise signing for Arsenal. I think it's a very strange one.
Do you know what it is, bro? Like I've always said, right, I don't mind a player leaving my club if you're going to get someone better than him in. And that counts for anyone. Like if Madueke goes, right, I'm okay with that as long as you get me someone better. You know, I've got no problem at all. However, for us, you get the feeling like, all right, let's say Madueke goes. We're probably not going to get Mohamed Kudus. Looks like we're perhaps not as interested as maybe reports first suggested, and maybe he's going to go to Tottenham. And look, if it was Madueke out, Kudus in, I was all for it. I was like, do you know what? Fine. Haven't got a problem with that at all. But if it's like a case of Madueke out and you go and get a Malik Fofana who could be better than Madueke in a few years, but at this point in time isn't actually that much better, that's where I've got an issue with it. If we're actively making choices that make the squad worse. Now, people don't have to like Madueke, but last season, whether that reflects badly on our current crop of wingers or whether Madueke was actually all right, it's probably a little bit of both. But he was our most productive winger in terms of output. He's probably our best winger in terms of one-on-one abilities. I'm not saying he's unbelievable. He should be a squad player at Chelsea. And if he's happy to be that, I've not got an issue with it. And you look at our right-sided players, you've got Pedro Neto, who's coming in, who's starting to find his feet a little bit now. You've got the exciting young kid, Esteval Willian, coming in. I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure or expectation on him to hit the ground running from day one. Joao Pedro's come in, could do a job on that right-hand side. If we needed, you could put Cole Palmer out there as well. So I can understand why Madueke might look at it and think, it's a World Cup year coming up. How many minutes am I actually going to get at Chelsea? As someone said in the chat, we've got Giovanni Quenda coming the following summer from Sporting Lisbon in 2026. So I look at it from a Madueke perspective and think, right, these lot keep signing players in my position, loads of players in my position. How much do the club actually rate me? So I can understand why he might be looking at his choices. But for you, I get it that you need backup to Bukayo Saka. And I know the market is kind of a bit mad right now. When you look at Joao Pedro, 55 plus 5, you look at Gittins, 48.5 million. You look at Elanga going for 55 million. You look at Kudus probably going to go for a similar amount. You look at Madueke, and whatever people think of Madueke, right? This is someone with Premier League experience. This is someone who's an England international. He's got 5 years left on his contract. He's 23 years of age. When you look at the market and you look at what similar players of that ability and that position are going for, I don't think it's outrageous for Chelsea to ask for £50 million for him. I know Arsenal will think that's ridiculous. We probably maybe want to pay 40 and maybe some sort of deal gets done. But do you think it's a case of if it could be done for, let's say, 45 plus 5 or whatever, or 40 plus 5, if you could get it down a little bit, you'd be like, do you know what? That's not the biggest disaster in the world. But if it starts going north of 50, it should be one of them where you're like, well, if you're going to go north of 50, scrap this guy. Let's just go and pay the £68 million release clause for Eze, which can be paid in 3 installments.
So I think it depends on who else we are going for. So if this Chelsea Madueke thing to Arsenal is going to be a real possibility, we have to look at who else, or if anybody else, is coming in. Because if we're going to go all out for this guy and he's going to be the guy that comes in and we're not getting Eze or Rodrigo, I think it is absolutely madness to be looking at 50 million for him and not just paying another 20 and getting Eze. I think that's mad for me. So I think Eze looks like it's going to get done. From what I'm hearing today, Eze looks like it's coming. I think it's now, do we get Eze and Rodrigo, or do we get Eze and Madueke, or do we get Eze, Rodrigo and Madueke? That's what Arsenal fans don't know. Now, we've been told we've got 350 million, which I'm still not quite sure I believe.
Oh, what, the promised war chest that you get every summer?
Exactly. So I got told we had 250 million last year. We got Sterling on deadline day on loan, right? So we've been bullshitted before. I don't think Arsenal are going to spend 350 million, Charlie, right? Before people think I'm deluded. However, if we have got money, if you start doing the maths, it gets to about 300 million with all of these players coming in that have been linked, right? So it is under the 350 that we've been spoken about. Now, I don't think still that we're going to get anywhere near to 300. I think Arsenal might spend 250, But I don't think that we're going to go over that. I don't think we will, which means I think it will be Eze and Madueke that we go for, and Rodrigo will just be a bit of a pipe dream. Now, it might be that Rodrigo wants to stay at Real Madrid, and it might be that Real Madrid want to let him go, and he might say, well, I don't want to go to Arsenal. I'd rather go to Bayern Munich, or I'd rather go Liverpool, I'd rather go somewhere else, right? That could be genuinely what happens. However, I can understand why we're in for him if there is movement with Rodrigo. I don't think Arsenal should be going in for 50 million for Madueke. And I think that if Chelsea fans were realistic, if it was the other way around and you went in for 50 million for Trossard, you'd probably be similar to me, thinking, what the hell's going on?
No chance.
Maybe Trossard's a bad example because he's 31, but you get my point, right?
Yeah.
So I think we should be looking at that saying, look, I don't really think that's money well spent. I can appreciate why Chelsea want 50 million for him because he's young, he's English, he's got English tax. He's obviously an international. He is fairly versatile in terms of left and right from what I'm hearing. So I can understand why you're going for that when you look at Elanga going for that price, right? But I don't think Arsenal are going to go for that. In fact, I know that Arsenal won't be paying 50 for him. So it might be that we're priced out and we move on anyway, right? But I heard today or yesterday someone was talking. I don't know who it was, Charlie, because so many people I listen to on podcasts. I'm sure you do now.
Yeah.
That Chelsea are trying to get 60 million in the door somehow. Now I don't know if that's to do with PSR or FFP or if that's to do with something.
Oh yeah, to do obviously with that UEFA stuff that come out the other day. Basically, we've got to raise 60 million. Like, you know what they do? Like, they sensationalize these things as if we can't make 60 million from player sales. You know, look at all the players we've got to get rid of. So we do need to make 60 million pounds from player sales, but that's not going to be an issue.
No, and it never is with Chelsea. Chelsea and selling is just superb. Every time they sell, I mean, most of the time it's coming to us, right? So when you look at it, we could end up paying over 120 million for Madueke and Havertz.
Absolutely mental, mate. Absolutely
it is mad. So I don't think it will be 50. However, I don't think it's going to be like 20. I think we're going to, we'll if we do get him, and I do think we will end up getting him, he wouldn't be having this much chat and Ornstein and Romano going this hard on it if it wasn't going to be a thing. Apparently, he's agreed personal terms of Arsenal. He believes in the project. It's now about the price. So if he is going to be a player that comes in the door, I imagine it will be like 35 with add-ons rising to 50 or something like that, or 45. Or I imagine it will be something along those lines that Chelsea will go, do you know what? Let's just do that. Let's get rid of him. Let's bring who we want in. So I think that probably will be the case. It's unbelievable business for Chelsea, if I'm honest, because I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's going to take it to the next level. I actually do rate Pedro Neto. I know a lot of the Chelsea fans think he's a bum. I don't. I think he's a very good player. And I think with a good striker in, I think you'll see Pedro Neto next season in a very, very good light. I rate him highly. I'd rather have Pedro Neto than Madueke, personally. As for Kudus, I think he's genuinely going to go Tottenham, which I think is mad, by the way. Why the hell you would want to go to Tottenham over Chelsea is embarrassing, if I'm honest. But maybe that's him.
I just don't think we've gone in for him, though, Potts. Like, the only bid so far has been the Spurs 50 mil bid. And, I don't know if you've seen it, but they tried to include add-ons relating to winning the Champions League or the Premier League as part of the deal. So, brilliant. I mean,
I'll tell you what, that is as worse as our 40 million and £1 for Suarez. Yeah. That is embarrassing as that. I'll tell you that now. Then winning the Premier League or the Champions League, and then we'll give you that's never in a million years going to happen.
Well, so but basically, we're not going to give you the money, is what we're saying with that one. We'll put that in. Mate, it's like when you put Ballon d'Or clauses in these contracts with add-ons for winning the Ballon d'Or, knowing that this guy is never going to win the Ballon d'Or. But I mean, I don't know. I find it strange with Madueke because I look at Arsenal, right, and I think, okay, right-hand side, you need someone to back him up. We'll come on to Nwaneri in a sec. But I look at it and I think, well, hang on a second. You got Ethan Nwaneri to back up Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
That I don't see an issue with that. Left-hand side, okay, I think you definitely need someone. You've got Martinelli. Trossard's probably going to leave. He's got a year left on his contract. He's into his 30s. Maybe it's wise to get maybe 20, 25 million for him. Move him on. Bring someone in on the left. Maybe sign an Eze who can play on that left-hand side, could also cover centrally for an Odegaard or someone like that. That would make more sense than bringing a Madueke in and trying to mould him into a left-sided player. Now, Madueke has played on the left and a couple of times for us. Had a couple of good games towards the end of last season. The guy's not a left winger, though. He really isn't. If Arteta thinks, do you know what? I like this guy. I can change him into a really good left winger. Good luck to him. But for me, if you're going to spend 50 million quid and then you're going to try and mould him into something he's not, that to me seems like a very, very unnecessary gamble. And it just feels like a waste of money. It would just make a lot more sense to go and get Eze, who naturally can do that job, and it's going to cost you 15 million quid more. Like once you get into that bracket of money, you're sort of like, well, you might as well go and get someone better. if you're going to commit that
I'll
much
tell you what
money.
it's the equivalent to, right? Let me turn it around to a Chelsea point of view, right? It's the equivalent of you having 60 million to spend, right?
Yeah.
And you going and lumping it on Adam Wharton instead of a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
That's
I hear
what
it.
it's the equivalent of doing, right? There's just no need. You don't need Adam Wharton. You've got Lavia, you've got Caicedo, you've got Andre Santos coming through. That Leslie Ogochukwu, I don't think is going to go, but obviously you've got him. You've got so many central defensive midfielders. In fact, you've got so many central midfielders, right? 'Cause you've got Enzo as well. It's just stupid going and doing that. You know, Baleba or Wharton are very good, and I think they've been fantastic for Manchester United. But are they really going to be needed at Chelsea? They're not, right? You've got Lavia and Caicedo, but you need a goalkeeper. Yeah, so if you had that 60 million, you go lump it on Diego Costa, that would make sense, yeah, or somebody like that. I don't know if you want him, but you know what I mean, a goalkeeper like that. I would understand that because I'd be like, oh, Chelsea need a goalkeeper because all of them are a little bit naff. So for me, when I look at that, I think that is what Arsenal are now doing. They're looking at Madueke thinking, could we try and put him on the left? Could we put him on the right? Could he cover Saka? He could do all those things, I'm sure, to cover. But is that really good use of funds? Now, as I say, if we've got in Gyokeres, Eze, Rodrigo, Zubimendi and Norgard, Mosquera at the back, and Kepa, and they go, we've got 50 million here. Should we just go and put it on Madueke? I'll be like, calm, no problem. Fine by me if that's what you want to do. As long as we don't piss Ethan off, which we'll come on to next, I'm all cool with that. But if we're going and getting Madueke as a 50 million player after Gyokeres and then nothing else happens, I think Arsenal fans will lose their minds, bruv. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, no, I look at it as very underwhelming. And I think if it comes to a case, and we'll get onto this now, if it came to a case of Madueke comes in and that's a decision which causes Nwaneri to leave the football club, I'm not necessarily saying I'm not necessarily saying to come to Chelsea, but you know, wherever it might be, you know, all the top clubs are looking at this guy. I mean, where do you stand on this Nwaneri thing? Because obviously the kid, you know, he's 18 years old. He's into the last 12 months of his contract. A deal's not been signed yet. Obviously, conversations are ongoing. You'll know better than me, but from what I've kind of read and seen, it appears that there's maybe a few concerns over game time. And I get it; it's difficult, you know. But he did play a reasonable amount last season, didn't he? I think he must have made over 20 appearances in the Premier League. So this is not someone that's getting like poverty minutes from the bench every sort of 3 or 4 weeks. This guy was featuring fairly regularly. And this was from The Athletic, you know, obviously Chelsea monitoring the situation. We did try and sign him back in 2023, a couple of years ago. 1 year left on the contract. Arsenal optimistic an agreement can be made, but Chelsea obviously are there and are prepared to move if, you know, he can't get the assurances that he wants. What I would find odd, right, is that if he can't get assurances of game time at Arsenal, that's not going to be much better at Chelsea. Arguably, that's probably going to be even worse. So I would question why he would come to Chelsea. But I mean, where do you stand on the whole Ethan thing, Potts? Do you think he will sign a new contract? Do you think even if you sign Eze, if it's Madueke or whoever it might be that comes in, another wide player or two, do you still see a space for him there?
Yeah, so this is escalated quite quickly, and as the media do, it's all spun into, oh my God, Ethan wants Chelsea, not Arsenal. My understanding is that's not the case, and he hasn't said he wants Chelsea. What has happened here is he is trying to sign a new contract just like Miles Lewis-Skelly has done, and he has got two concerns. One is his wages, and two is how much game time he's getting. Now, I think that's general. I think that's fair. I think it's justified to say that. And I don't think it's because of the lack of minutes he's had previously. I think it's the players that we're linked with coming in. He wants to know if he's signing at Arsenal that he's going to get game time. And if he sees Madueke, Eze, Rodrigo and co-linked on top of Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli, he might think, where the hell do I fit in here then? With Max Dowman coming through as well. So I can understand why Ethan is reluctant to go, right, okay, yeah, just sign on the dotted line. I think he wants to ask some questions first. And he's allowed to do that. That's his right. He's 17-year-old. It's got to be a big move for him. I think he wants to stay at Arsenal. I think he will stay at Arsenal. I think what we have to then be aware of is where his game time comes from. Now, if we're signing Madueke, I think he's got less times of getting minutes. Unless, of course, he can get ahead of Madueke behind Saka, which I actually think he's got a chance of doing. The other thing is that if we are going to get Madueke and Eze, it might be that Ethan Nwaneri is okay with that because Ethan Nwaneri will back up Odegaard, Eze and Martinelli will go left, and then Saka and Madueke will go right. So actually, he might get more time there. If we get Rodrigo, Madueke and Eze, he might then look at things and go, what the hell? Where am I going to play? I can't get any time here. So I think that's going to be a genuine question mark for him. I also think there's a little bit of agent talk here, Charlie, that he's trying to get more money for his boy, right? He's trying to get more money, and I understand why. Like this happened with Miles Lewis-Skelly. He was apparently going to Real Madrid. Next week, he signed for Arsenal. So I think this is going to be similar. He's probably started to put the feeders out in the Nwaneri camp. Who's interested then? City, Chelsea, Villa, all these guys have gone forward. And I think he will end up staying at Arsenal when he will sign, and I hope he does. Now, if it was a choice for me between keeping Nwaneri or signing Madueke, I'd of course keep Nwaneri. I think he's actually better than Madueke. I think he scored more goals than him last season with less minutes, and he's actually very good cover on the right-hand side as well as for Odegaard as well. So I don't think this is Chelsea want Nwaneri, we're going to give you Madueke and, you give us Nwaneri. I don't think that's the case. I've not heard once that Ethan wants Chelsea.
No.
And if I'm honest with you, I agree with you. I don't see where he plays if he goes to Chelsea. So I think that he's in the same boat. So for me, I think he'll stay at Arsenal unless he seriously has concerns about not playing, which he might go on loan to Dortmund for a year, or to Benfica for a year, or to Lazio for a year, or something like that. But
yeah.
I think he'll stay within the camp. I really do. I think he'll stay here. I think he's happy here. He's a big Arsenal fan. And I think it's just a matter of wages and playing time. So...
Yeah, I mean, look, let's say Madueke and Eze both come in, right? That could be Madueke's backing up Saka on the right, and it's Eze and Martinelli, let's say, on the left. Is Nwaneri predominantly a right-sided player, or could he play centrally as well and could then become a bit of a versatility man in the final third? So he could play on the right if needed, could play centrally if needed, and he becomes like that versatile forward that seems to be quite popular these days.
Yeah, I always say this, Charlie, right? When you're building a squad of 25, which is what everyone now seems to believe you need in terms of registration, you've obviously got your first 11, you've got your backup 11, which is your 22, and you've got 3 versatile players. Normally, it's a versatile defender, a versatile midfielder of some type, and a versatile front man. So you've got somebody who can play across the front three, somebody who can play across the midfield, and somebody who can play across the defence. And I think Arsenal are looking at doing that with one of the positions with Ethan Nwaneri, and I think that is probably what they see it as. He'll want first-team football, but at the same time, we've got to remember he isn't 20. He's 17 years old, and he's already got 20 games under his belt for Arsenal last season. That is not like, wow, this guy's not getting game time. We're not seeing anything from him. Okay, in the last back end of the season, we probably could have seen more appearances from the bench from him. But if I'm honest, he ain't been hard done by. When I look at the games that he's played and the opportunities that he's had, I don't believe that Arteta has always been kind with him in terms of not bringing him on from the bench of the PSG games and the back end of the season. But one, there was rumours that he had a knock, and two, there's rumours that he's not been working off the ball as hard as some of the others. So he's got a lot of learning, man. He's 17. Like if it was an FA Cup final tomorrow, he wouldn't get in, would he? Chelsea wouldn't start him, and Arsenal wouldn't start him. So he's got to be realistic about it for me. So also it's just a matter of time.
But also from a Chelsea perspective, right? Let's just say in a hypothetical world that he did come, I'm sort of looking at it. I'm thinking from a squad building perspective, it makes zero sense. You've got Esteban Willian on the right-hand side, 18 years of age. You've got Quenda coming next summer, 18 years of age. What is the point of bringing a third player in, 17, 18 years of age, who's predominantly right-sided? You just create a bottleneck effect, and full well straight away, all those 3 aren't making it. Maybe 1 makes it, maybe 2 of those 3 make it. And then someone else gets moved on. And that's one of the big issues with the way that we go about doing things. When you stockpile talent, unfortunately, you create that bottleneck effect where all these guys need minutes, but they're all taking the minutes off each other. And then it becomes a problem. So, like, if I was advising a young player whether to come to Chelsea or not, if you're Nwaneri and you're his agents and his team advising him, you'd look at that and say, look, mate, there's Esteban and then there's Quenda coming. Both the same age as you, both the same position. It makes zero sense for you to move there. But I mean, we'll get on to Arsenal in a sec, bro. I just wanted to get your thoughts. What have you made of Chelsea's window so far? Liam Delap, Jamie Gittins, Joao Pedro. Obviously, Maresca wasn't particularly happy with the attack last season. You can chuck Esteban in there now as well, because even though we signed him last summer, he's now a Chelsea player. So that's basically 4 new players in the attack compared to what we finished with last season. I mean, what have you made of the 3 players who signed, Poch? Do you think that's they're decent signings? Do you think that's something that improves the Chelsea attack, or do you look at it very much as like maybe you kind of just moved sideways?
I think they're good signings. I don't think they're elite. Yeah. I don't know anything about Jamie Gittins, so I can't comment on him. I've heard that he's very promising, but he sounds like another project player at the age of 20. I think he gives you some width, which I think Chelsea lack in the first team at the moment. But I don't know that if there's something there that, I look at and go, wow. I like Joao Pedro a lot, by the way. I think he's an excellent talent. I think he's a really good player. I saw his cameo the other night. I thought, wow, he was good. Excellent. Yeah. I don't know, again, if he's a 20-goal-a-season striker. I don't know if he's going to play in the 10, left, right, or up front for you, or a bit of everything. I don't know if he's a squad player or a starter. We'll find out soon enough. But I like Liam Delap. I think that's a really good signing. Now, I don't know if Liam Delap's enough to go and win you a title, but I do think that he's going to come in and cause absolute havoc. He's a bully boy up front. He scores goals. I think he got 12 or 13 goals for Ipswich last
12
year.
last season, yeah.
Yeah, he's got to aim for 20 for Chelsea, to be honest, in my opinion. And I was speaking to Don about this, and, me and Don don't always see eye to eye on things with Chelsea and Arsenal, as you know, right? But I do think that he's got a point about goals by committee at Chelsea. So you're not going to rely on the 30 goal a season striker, a little bit like what Man City have done with Haaland and what Liverpool have done with Salah. Or maybe that's unkind because Liverpool score goals away from Salah, but you get my point. I think with Arsenal, the season we had where we went 8 points clear in 22-23, Jesus got 12 goals, Saka got 15, Ødegaard got 15, Martinelli got 15, and we had goals from Xhaka and co from midfield as well. Yeah. And that was why we were able to be goals by committee and go into a title race. I think Chelsea are going to have to try and do that. So we all know that Cole Palmer can score goals. We all know that Nicholas Jackson, to be fair to him, can score goals, albeit he might be sold or on the bench this year. João Pedro got, I think, 10 for Brighton last
season, yeah.
Yeah, Delap got 12. Obviously, Gittins has got 8, I think, for Dortmund. So when you look at it, you're trying to go by goals by committee. I think Enzo will be more of a player into the attacking side of things as well.
He can get you 5 to 10 from midfield probably across a season in the league.
So that's why I think Chelsea. That's where I think Chelsea are going for. I don't think they're going for this one. And I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought you were going to go for an Osman striker. I thought you were going to go and get a world-class goalkeeper. It sounds like you're going to be sticking with Delap and Sanchez and Gittins on the wing. So I don't know if you're, unless of course you might buy more players. I don't have a clue about your links at the moment, but obviously it's gone quiet with Kudus, and I don't know who else there is linked with you. I'm sure we'll come on to that in a minute. Yeah. But for me, I look at it and think that Chelsea have got a real good. What you need to do now is actually mould this team into an 11 that you believe in, because I don't know what your 11 is. I'm really confused. Like Don couldn't even tell me the other day. We did it on Saeed's show, and he didn't even know what it was going to be.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It's hard, isn't it? What is João Pedro going to play in the 10 and Palmer right? Is it going to be who's going to miss out, basically?
But this is the thing, it's great to have options, as you mentioned about, squads, 25, 26-man squad. I think, squads, the role of the squad now, I don't think's ever been more important than what it is right now in football. You almost need, you almost need 2 11s. I mean, not quite, obviously, to that extent, but it's not far away. You pretty much do need 2 11s of players that can do a serious job, so that then the drop off, if let's say that Cole Palmer don't play, okay, let's go and play João Pedro in the 10. All right, he's not quite a Cole Palmer, but it's not a significant drop off. It's a drop off to a degree, but it's not like, oh my God, this guy is terrible compared to him. If you've got Liam Delap playing, but Nicholas Jackson comes in, or you Liam Delap and you then replace him with João Pedro as a 9, you've got your good options there. Whether it's Neto or Esteban on the right, whether it's, I still think we need to go and get a left-sided player. I know it sounds mental. We've signed so many wingers over the years, but actually we seem to still be pretty short in the wide areas. But you're right with what you say about not wanting to be reliant on one guy for the goals. Maresca said that numerous times in press conferences. I don't want one guy that scores 30, 40 goals. I want 4 or 5 guys chipping in with 10 to 15 each, because that's a lot more sustainable. Because imagine you plan that way, right? Match day 1, you're 30 goal a season man, ACL, he's out for the season. Then what happens? You're fucked. So, and I think as well now, I think that football in general, mate's kind of moved away from that one guy that bags all the goals. You get your Haalands, you've got your Harry Kanes that score a lot of goals and whatnot. But generally speaking now, it's a lot more of a team game. And I look at our attacking options, and you're right. Delap should get at least 15 next season. Jackson is capable of getting 15 if he's here, because he's done it in his first season. João Pedro is capable of those numbers. I think Pedro Neto can get 5 to 10. Enzo Fernandez can get that from midfield. Jamie Gittins, you're not sure what you're going to get, but I'd like to think he could at least get 5 or 6. And then you sort of add all that together, and you're like, there's a decent amount of goals there. Defensively, we're not actually horrendous. We're not as bad as what people make us out to be. I still think maybe we're a centre-half short in terms of a top-quality centre-half, someone that can lead the line, like a Van Dijk type, like a Saliba type. But I'm not sure whether they're going to get that or not. We desperately need a backup for Cucurella, because there's no one right now. If Cucurella gets injured, we're finished. There's no one to play on that left side. But I actually think that the options aren't that bad. But I do agree with you. We're going into a Champions League campaign. We want to try and push and challenge the teams above us. And when I see the players that I know football's not done on paper and it's not about necessarily getting the biggest names, it's about the profiles and the right fits. But when you look at it on paper, on like a surface level, you look at who Chelsea have signed so far, and you compare that to Liverpool, and you compare that to Arsenal, and you compare that to Man City. I look at the names that we've signed to compare to the names that they've signed so far, and I don't really see how we've closed that gap at all with the signings that we've made.
I'm glad you've said that, because I think Don is on the other bracket to you. And I think he
I
thinks
could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
I could be wrong.
This way, it don't look like we've closed the gap signings wise.
I agree with you, and I'm not saying that Chelsea aren't going to get into the top 4 next season. I'm not saying you're not going to title challenge. I just think when you look at our summer so far with Zubimendi and Gyokeres, and obviously the links with Eze and co, I think that is an exciting summer for Arsenal, as long as it happens, right? Liverpool have had an exciting summer already, and they're looking at another striker as well. Manchester City, we know what they're about in the last 2 windows. They've spent the best part of about 500 million, I think, when this summer ends. Chelsea, I think, have just stayed where they are. I don't know that Chelsea are guaranteed to go into the 2nd or 3rd next season. They could do. But I think what you've got to do now is look at your actual 11 and mould this team together before you start going and getting 5 or 6 more new faces. Because there's so much happening at Chelsea. Like there's so many wingers. I don't know which of them start and which of them don't. There's so many midfielders. I don't know what midfield trio you're going with. There's so much that you're looking at doing still in the summer. I'm getting confused, and I'm looking at it thinking, why don't you just go and buy a goalkeeper? Why don't you just go and buy a striker?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you go and buy a centre half that's proper, an upgrade on an injured Fofana that can partner Colwell, or maybe you go and get 2, that you think are going to be a John Terry and Carvalho. Like, I don't know. Like, what I'm guilty of, and I suppose I shouldn't do this anymore, is I'm guilty of comparing Chelsea to the Roman era. And I know you're not that anymore.
We're not
I look at Chelsea and I think, where's your Cech? Where's your Lampard? Where's your Terry? Where's your Carvalho? Where's your Cole? Where's your Drogba? You ain't going to be that anymore, Charlie. Do you know what I mean? And I think you're a different outlook now, and I need to try and tell myself that,
But, like, you look at a spine, right, of a team. Goalkeeper, centre-half, number 6, maybe a 10, and a striker, right? Okay? If I look at Chelsea's spine, maybe you could say Fofana or Colwell, right? Maybe you could say one of them, potentially. Midfield, you could have Moises Caicedo. You can have Cole Palmer. Right? There's not really a spine in terms of that number 9, I don't think. Let's wait and see what Delap can do. Jackson, I like Nicholas Jackson, but let's be real. That's not a spine signing in terms of a number 9. So I look at it, right? And with the money that we've spent, and I'm not knocking the owners here because they've spent a lot of money and not all ownerships come in and spend money. However, I still believe with the amount of money we've invested, with the amount of players that we've signed, to still be lacking a spine of a team, or for the spine of the team not to be complete, that's really poor, in my opinion. Really, really poor. And look, I've praised the director for certain things. They've done some good business, but it's why I was so annoyed that we didn't pay 5 million more for Mike Maignan, because you put Maignan into that team, and suddenly you're like, right, okay, Maignan, Fofana, Caicedo, Palmer, go and get me a number 9. But look, people can agree or disagree with me. I'm not here to please everyone, but I just feel that I'm being realistic, where we're happy to go and spend over £100 million on 2 attacking players, but when it comes to improving the goalkeeper position, we're not prepared to spend £5 million extra to upgrade that seriously.
I mean, look, it's going to be interesting how you line up. I've put together what I think you might go with. Now, people, you might
let me bring it on the screen. Can I bring
Chelsea better than me. This might be absolute nonsense. Chelsea better than me, right? But the way I'm seeing it in my mind to get this team in that you've signed and to actually look a bit different to last season is to go with your back 4, and this is when everyone's fit, by the way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think Enzo needs to be in the team instead of Lavia because he's been great for you. So him and Caicedo. I think João Pedro might go into more of a central attacking midfield role, like a 10, just behind Delap. And you might have Palmer towards the right and then Gittins on the left. Now, it might be that you go for someone else on the left. I don't know. And it might be that João Pedro plays on the left. But I don't know what you thought of that team and if you think that's better than what you had last season or an upgrade on it. I mean, certainly the attack, it's different.
I mean, look, let's be real. The back 4, right, if everyone's fit, that back 4 isn't actually that bad at all. I actually think it's not as good as, let's say, other back 4s necessarily, but as a unit, it's not bad. Cucurella, I think, has been superb, and Levi Cole and Fofana, have got a lot of promise. James, obviously, you know what he's about. Midfield, Caicedo, Fernandes, 2 very good players. the attack, you could, and that's where you've got options, right? João Pedro could play centrally, could play right, could play as a 9. So you've got options there. I look at that, right? And you could have Pedro Neto on the right-hand side, and you could play Palmer centrally. So you've got options, you've got rotation there. Is it better than last season? I think to a degree, yes, because Delap's a better goal scorer than Nicholas Jackson. So I think you've improved in that sense in terms of a goal scoring situation. Delap's a better goal scorer than Jackson. Is Jamie Gittins better than Jadon Sancho on the left-hand side? Let's wait and see. Is João Pedro centrally better than what we were having? Well, is he better than Palmer centrally? No, but you could play Palmer on the right-hand side. You could play Pedro on the right-hand side. You know, you've got options. So I would say, yes, the team is better than what it was last season, but is it better to the standard we need it to be better than? Because you can be here, but if you've just moved to there, is it good enough for what we're looking to achieve? Now, I look at Chelsea. I look at Chelsea next season, bro, and I look at it, right, okay, so we've got back into the Champions League. We've won a trophy under the new ownership. Okay, those two things are ticked off. So we've got a Champions League campaign, and now I'm looking at it. What would be progress next season? Let's say, let's make quarterfinals of the Champions League, right? Let's try and do that. Let's see if we can finish in the top 3, or let's see if we can be in a situation where we're not going to the last day to qualify for Champions League football. The big thing for me is, bro, I would say this would be a successful season. Quarterfinals of Champions League, top 3 if we can get it, if not a comfortable top 4, not going to the last day. And we have to win a domestic cup. We've won no domestic silverware since 2018. That can't run. That can't continue anymore. You know, that's gotta stop. We've got to put an end to that. So that would be a successful season for me. I still think we need a bit more quality in certain areas. There's a long way to go in the window, so maybe we will or we won't get that. But mate, because this is always interesting conversations. I think Chelsea fans think we're a lot closer to Arsenal than perhaps Arsenal fans think, and maybe vice versa. But like, genuinely, bro, how far behind Arsenal do you think Chelsea are?
I think you're about 3 or 4 signings away. I don't think it's mad. I don't think it's like this huge gap. If you went and upgraded your goalkeeper, got a centre-half in who's going to act like the equivalent to your John Terry, went and got a proper number 9 that I look at and think, wow, this guy's going to take them to elite levels. I'm talking Julian Alvarez, Osimhen, Isak type. I think you're there or thereabouts. I don't look at the squad at Arsenal and Chelsea and think, wow, we're light years ahead. The table proved that last year. I think we were about 7 or 8 points ahead of you, weren't we? Or something like that.
5 in the end, yeah.
Was it 5? There we go.
Yeah.
So there was hardly anything between us, right? When you look at it, I mean, we had an absolutely abysmal season in terms of injuries, but I don't think that we had the squad that was anywhere near able to compete for anything. So I think that's now got to change. With Chelsea, I mean, look, if I was a Chelsea fan right now, I'll come to Liverpool, City, and Arsenal ahead of you in a minute. I'd be like, first of all, right, can we make sure we're clear of Newcastle, Villa, you know, potentially a Forest, a Brighton, a Spurs, a United, whatever it be below us, so we can have to worry about them. And I think your first 11 is probably able to compete with Villa and Newcastle, but it's definitely better than the rest, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So some people might take some Newcastle players, some people might take some Chelsea's. I think if I'm honest with you, if you mix the two together, you'd have a brilliant squad, right? But if you then look at the Villas, I think they've got the Morgan Rogers and the Ollie Watkins and the kind of Tielemans. I think Newcastle have got the Isaks and Gordons, Tonali's and Brunos. But you've also got the Caicedos, the Enzos, etc., right? So I think that you've got some top players too. When I look at Liverpool, Manchester City and Arsenal's 11, and I look at the 11 I've just put out there, I actually do think ours is a hell of a lot better, as well as City and Liverpool. I'm talking all 3 of them there. So I don't think it's like for every position, like no one's getting in it. Like, you know, Chelsea and Arsenal, if you did a combined 11, you'd be able to talk about a lot of positions that you'd be able to debate about, right?
Yeah.
But there's some that I think would be clear. So I think that's where you've got to look at is how many of these players would get into these top 3 sides, Liverpool, City and Arsenal. And if you're saying probably 7 or 8, you've got a great opportunity, or maybe even 6 or 7, you've got a great opportunity of saying, well, we've got a great opportunity to go from then here. If you're saying maybe 3, 4 get in, I think you know your place. You're probably going to end up 4th again. So I think when you get to the end of the window and you look at your team and go, right, this 11, I don't think there's much of a difference between Liverpool and Chelsea's here. That I think we've got a good chance. Then they'll know that you'll be able for a title race. If you're looking at it going, well, we're kind of closer to Newcastle and Villa here, you know, it's not rocket science. You're probably going to end up 4th or 5th again. Yeah. You know, so that's what Chelsea have got to do at the end of the window, really, is assess how good of a window it's been. And I just look at it and I think, like, I've put together there what I think it might be, and I don't believe that will be the team, by the way, because I've known nothing about what Maresca's tactics are, right? But I'm just looking at the 11 there, and I'm thinking you have actually got some strength in depth. You could do quite a lot with that. You've got Lavi, I didn't mention. You've got Pedro Neto. You've obviously still got the likes of Madueke and Jackson, who we don't know if they're going to stay or go. You've got Esteval coming through. You've obviously got the young lad Andre Santos now as well.
Good. Yeah.
Tosin and Chalobah are obviously your backup centre halves. I haven't mentioned Gusto. I haven't mentioned. So there is strength in depth there. However, I don't think your 11 is anywhere near the level of Liverpool, Manchester City or Arsenal's. That's just my opinion. Some people might disagree and think it's better than City's and Arsenal's, but I think that's what you need to now try and catch up in this window, is try and compete with that. That's what you've got to do, is look ahead and look at Liverpool. Don't look at Arsenal. As Don does this, he looks at Arsenal. Like if you look at Arsenal, you're probably going to finish second if you get better than Arsenal.
Yeah, you got to
look at Liverpool. Yeah, like they're the.
You've got to look at the best, haven't you? You've got to base yourself. Yeah. You've got to compare yourself to the best. You've got to look about how far you are away from the best, because ultimately, whether you finish second, third, or fourth, it don't really make any difference. Like, you're talking a few million in prize money, but in terms of like what it actually means, there's only one winner. So it's I don't really care. If you're not winning the title, it's irrelevant whether you're second, third, or fourth. It really is for me. I'm not going to be out here celebrating a second. If we come second next season, all right, I'll be pleased. I'll be happy. It's an improvement, but ultimately, second, third, or fourth don't really make any difference. We could have come, and it's all ifs and buts, but we could have come second this season. Second was there for the taking. We could have finished runners up. That's not an outrageous thing to say, given our start, given then how we had a big drop off sort of January to March time. And then we picked
Chelsea might get second or third. I never thought you'd win the title, but I thought you'd be up to that, and then you dropped off.
Yeah, completely. Second place is definitely there. Was definitely there for the taking. But I mean, bro, let's take it back to Arsenal, because obviously you lot are desperate for a centre forward. It looks like Victor Gyokeres is going to be the guy. It looks like you finally decided between him and Benjamin Sesko. How excited are you for him? And also, how does this signing change the way that you're going to play? Because we saw it when Haaland come to Man City. Pep sort of slightly changed the way that he played to accommodate Haaland. Do you see Arteta changing the way that he plays, changing the system potentially to accommodate the arrival of Gyokeres? Because you haven't really had like a out-and-out top centre forward really since Aubameyang signed.
Yeah, I agree. And you could actually argue it's probably not since Van Persie, because Aubameyang was on the bloody left half the time. Yeah. So we actually haven't had a goal scorer at Arsenal since Aubameyang, but we haven't had a proper number 9 since Van Persie, which is scary. I mean, Giroud, I'll say Giroud was very underappreciated. He was underrated, but he wasn't going to get us 30 goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, this is exciting. And I'm not saying he's going to get us 30 goals. I'm not saying he's going to bang, but there's less of a risk of him not banging than Benjamin Sesko, because I really didn't want that signing, and for a couple of reasons. I thought that 13 goals in the Bundesliga, a project player, is not what Arsenal need. We need someone who's ready now to win now. I also think the reason we liked him is because he was 6'7" and was a tall bloke that we could get some headers on, right? Yeah. Now that we've got Gyokeres, who's not small, by the way, but isn't really known for his ability in the air, I think we're going to have to play at feet more and chest more, and I think that's going to help us. Now, Saka and Martinelli have definitely, whether you're a big fan of them or not, have definitely been affected in the last couple of seasons by the way that we're trying to play. Because the set pieces are great for Saka from corners. He can whip him in. But his actual play hasn't been nowhere near the level of what we wanted, because it's just been quite poor, lumping balls into boxes to someone to get their bloody bonce on it. And I don't want to be seeing that personally in set piece FC, Stoke FC football. That for me is not something that I think you should be putting your style on. I've not got no problem with doing that in the last 20 minutes to win a game, Charlie. There's nothing wrong with that. No. But when you're doing it for 90 minutes of every game, it was coming quite boring and quite embarrassing, if I'm honest. So that's got to change. I think the style of play will change now. And I think Gyokeres will definitely not want to be being lumped balls into. I think that he's definitely more capable of playing with it on his feet as well. We've seen what he does when he turns players. We've seen what he does driving on the ball. His ball carrying stats are unbelievable in comparison to Havertz. I think also a lot of the stuff that Havertz does is not what he does. So I think that Havertz is kind of a very different style to Gyokeres, although they're quite big and they're quite physical. I think that the work rate of Havertz is actually quite underappreciated at times. But certainly for me, Gyokeres, I think, is a lot more all-round. And let's just be real, Charlie, he's a better finisher, right? Stats say that, yeah? So in the box now, the amount of times we either miss it or no one's in there, Gyokeres will be in there. So we're going to score more goals. Well, you'd like to think the stats suggest we're going to score more goals. I'm really excited by this one, and I'll tell you why. Because I watched him at Coventry years ago when Luton were going to get into the playoff, and he was very good, right? Now, I never thought Arsenal were going to sign him, and I certainly didn't want him at the time when he was at Coventry. But I thought that was quite impressive to get 29 goals in the Championship. And I know that people laugh at the Championship, but we have seen some players come to the Premier League and kill it, like Mitrovic did, like Ollie Watkins has done, like, you know, Ivan Toney has done. You can mention
Jared Bowen
is a great shout.
Andy Robertson, Eze, mate. There's loads of them that have come.
You know, even Adam Wharton. You know, like there's been some fantastic players from the Championship. So I looked at that and I thought that could be interesting. And Wolves were interested in him, and I thought that'd be quite good. I'd like to see him in the Prem. I think he's got the physical presence for that. And he went over to Sporting Lisbon, and I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. I'm not going to watch him now. And my friend Albert, he said to me, "You heard about this Victor Gyokeres lad?" I said, "Oh, you're the guy at Coventry." He said, "Mate, he's absolutely brilliant." And I looked at him and I thought, what's he doing over there then? Because Darwin Núñez was killing it, you know, and he was terrible when he came to the Premier League. And I thought, my God, this guy, goal. And I thought 58 goals and assists in 50 games. What the hell is going on over there?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, he's not in the Champions League yet. Let's see what he does. He was in the Europa League and he got 6 goals in 9 in the Europa League. So I thought, well, he's killing it in Europa League now as well. Then he goes this season, just gone into the Champions League, scores a hat-trick against Man City. He's the only player that I've seen turn Saliba and Gabriel. Okay, he hit the post and didn't score, but he skinned them like they weren't there. He absolutely dominated in the Champions League, and he started to score for his country as well. And I thought, right, you've basically ticked every level then. You've done Championship in England, you've done Portugal, you've done League, you've done Europa League, you've done Champions League. Now you're doing it for your country. I'm interested. And when I heard he was 67 million, I thought, well, that's a steal. We played bloody 65 for Havertz. Let's go and get him. So this, for me, other than Isak, he was the one that I wanted. There was only 4 I wanted. Osimhen and Julian Alvarez were the other 2. Other than that, I wanted one of those 4, and I've got the guy that I wanted because I think he's going to be brilliant for us, mate, and take us to that kind of next level. So there's no excuses about Arsenal not scoring goals now in front of the box. That's for sure.
Mate, just quickly, do you have any concerns that when you watch a lot of Gyokeres, right, and you watch him in Portugal, there's a lot of space he's got, a lot of space against some of them teams. You're not going to get that same space in the Premier League. Do you have any concerns that, look, we've seen him do it in the Championship. He's got experience of English football. Do you have any concerns that he might find it difficult to adapt to not having all that space? I know he's played Champions League football, so it's a bit different there. But you look at a lot of his stuff in Portugal, the guy's got a lot of space and a lot of time on the ball for a lot of his goals, which he simply isn't going to get in England.
Yeah, and it's one of the only concerns people have is, are you going to be able to do it in England? Are you going to have that space as you do? The 2 things I'll say today is you're right, and he might not score 50 goals. I'd imagine he won't score 50 goals. However, I look at Arsenal in the last 2 seasons. Havertz got 14 goals, and I'm not a big fan. Marino got 12 goals, and I'm not a big fan. What can Gyokeres get? Now, Gyokeres, when he didn't have space, in some of the games where I've saw, in some of the goals that he scored in tight spaces, he had the technical ability to use his feet to get round, but he's also got a hell of a lot of strength and physical presence. His attributes are very good physically. He's never injury prone, and I'll touch lucky wood here because I don't want him to do what Timber did and go out for ages. However, I do not have a problem with him in that respect, and I do think that it'll work around that. And I think our style of play needs to change for him to be allowed to do that as well, because he isn't going to get enough space, which means that, look, the biggest concern I think that I've had in the last couple is not just the fact we haven't had a number 9, it's that Saka's not been allowed any room. Now, I'll say Saka's phenomenal because his goals and assists of over 30 is amazing, seeing as he's double or triple tagged most of the game. But that's not going to happen now because they're not going to be able to, Charlie. You're not going to be able to go and say, let's just say we sign Eze or Rodrigo and we get Gyokeres, and we've got Gyokeres, Saka, Eze or Rodrigo. You can't go and mark Saka because you've got Gyokeres and Eze or Rodrigo there.
That's what you need, isn't it? Like,
you know what I mean? This is why I'm Exactly. This is why we badly need these 2 coming in. So that's why I'm not as worried as some.
Yeah, no, bro, I hear it. Look, it's an exciting signing, and it also means there's no more excuses now. There's no, there weren't really any excuses anyway, but this is like the last excuse that maybe you could have given Arsenal. Oh, they don't have a centre forward, they don't have a goal scorer. That's now been addressed and resolved. Now there are 0 excuses. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see kind of how Arteta fits the pieces together, what other business you do. But certainly with Gyokeres, if Eze comes or whatever, that's a big, big improvement in terms of the attack. A massive improvement. The defense has always been pretty good.
Rodrigo, we might not get Rodrigo.
No, but if you get Eze, even if you get Eze and Gyokeres, right, that's 2 significant upgrades in attack. Massive. Midfield has always been pretty good anyway. You basically swapped Jorginho and Partey for Norgard and Zubimendi.
Yeah.
Defensively, you're good anyway, and the goalkeeper's good. So actually, I look at that, and Arsenal's weakest thing probably was their attack. So if you had 2 big upgrades in there, there's no reason why you can't go and give it a serious go.
Look, if we sign what I think we're going to sign, and the links we're being made to Eze and Rodrigo and Gyokeres and Mendy's come in, I don't know how anyone can sit there and say, if we don't win the league, give him another year.
You can't.
You've got to go and win the league with that, because like people might not agree with this in the chat, because I know Chelsea fans hate on Arsenal. But I actually think if Rodrigo and Gyokeres come in with Saka, I think we've got the best front three in the league. Now, we might not have a Salah or a Haaland, but in terms of individually on paper, I don't think there's a better left winger than Rodrigo that's going to be in, unless you've fancied Luis Diaz. I don't think there's a better striker than I don't think there's a better winger and striker combo than Saka and Gyokeres, unless you had Salah and Haaland in the same team. So on paper, as a front three, Arsenal got to go and win something. There's no more excuses, because you can't say, well, it's not very good, Liverpool's is better. Well, Arsenal ain't going to win the league then.
Yeah, there's
no excuses here. Arsenal have to go and win something, mate. Like, let's be real. Like, it is not. I don't know how anyone can get behind Arteta if he doesn't win something this year. I'm sorry. Like, there's nobody that can tell me that he deserves another year if he doesn't win anything. And, and I've been kind, Charlie. I've said if he wins an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup and he goes to the last final of the Champions League but loses it on the last day of the season in the Premier League, I'm not going to get on his case as much as I would if he threw everything in the bin. Right? So it really has to be, genuinely, it does have to be a Premier League or a Champions League, really. If I was being... it
has to be. It has to be. Bro, I know you've got to go now, but thanks for your time as always. Good to catch up. Let the people know where to find you. They don't know.
Big up, man. Listen, it's been a pleasure. It's gone really quick as well. Sorry I can't stay longer. I've got another show. But big up to you, mate. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I know there's been some love and some hate in the chat, so big up to all of you. And if you do want to come follow me, you'll see Charlie on there as a lot as well. Football's 12th man. I'm about to go over to Lee Judge's show now to do an Arsenal show, but I am on there quite a lot. But Football's 12th man, you'll see me. And Dan Arsenal 87 on socials. But big up to you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Nice one, bro. Good to catch up. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Dan's channel. Great stuff over there. Tagged in the title. I'm going to carry on for a bit. Potts, catch up with you soon, bro. Cheers for your time.
Bro. Take care, guys.
Nice
See you soon.
See you later, mate. Guys, big up to Dan as always. People, make sure you're smashing the likes. Subscribe if you're new around here. All of that good stuff. Let's discuss some of the latest Chelsea transfer news, people, because there's been a bit coming out as we have been recording chat, and it regards the future of Josh Acheampong. Now, Crystal Palace have made an inquiry to take Acheampong on loan. Now, where do we stand on this, chat? Where do we stand on this? Because Crystal Palace have inquired about Josh Acheampong on season loan from Chelsea. Now, in isolation and in theory, guys, I don't view this as a particularly bad deal. Acheampong go to Crystal Palace. It's regular football, and he's going to play in an exciting system. He's going to play in a good team, and he's going to play under a good manager in Oliver Glasner. So in isolation, this is not a bad deal. However, when you look a bit more into it, and you sort of see that Gusto just don't suit the system, even though Maresca obviously continually goes with him, Josh is so much more comfortable coming into midfield and whatnot. So much more comfortable coming into midfield onto the ball and stuff, and his passing and his ball carrying. I don't really. It's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one because we've seen a loan to Crystal Palace work well for Gallagher, work well for Loftus-Cheek. This could work really well for Josh. Could work really well. Could do really well. But I just don't know if we'd be making a mistake, given that Gusto don't really suit the system, given the fact that hopefully he doesn't, but Reece could, these things could happen. Palace have treated our loanees well, but Palace could go and sign Usman Diamonde. Daniel Munoz has done very, very well. How much is Acheampong going to play at Crystal Palace, given Daniel Munoz, and Diamonde could sign as well? What would the plan be for Acheampong at Palace? And then when you couple that in, chat, with how valuable Josh could be if he's used properly in rotation, right back, right centre back, looks composed and ready for the role Maresca requires compared to Augusto. We need a big squad this season, particularly with the Club World Cup fatigue, Champions League as well. Maresca can't play his B team in that competition and get away from it. Josh is a top talent, and he should be getting more minutes than he got last year. He should be. Palace plays with 3 centre-backs. Yep, so it would be Gurhey, Lacroix, and whoever else. Josh could play, and this is the thing, Acheampong could be a third centre-back, or he could be a right wing-back as well in that system. But Palace signed Borna Sosa at left-back. Chilwell's not going to stay at Palace. This won't be a permanent deal. This would be a what do you call it? This would be a loan deal. So this wouldn't be permanent, chat. This would be a loan deal, and an interesting one at that. In isolation, I don't mind it. I don't mind it in isolation. I just worry about whether it's the right thing to do, and whether we could potentially be leaving ourselves very, very short. We could be leaving ourselves very, very short. And I'm just a bit torn on it. I don't know where I stand. Because if he goes to Palace and plays 25, 30 games, chat, it's fantastic for his development, and it properly prepares him for Chelsea. If he stays at Chelsea, he has to be used as part of a regular rotation, whether from the bench or starting the odd game there. Those two things have to be on the cards. If Chelsea aren't going to give him that, then he should go out on loan and he should go and play. 100% Josh fits the system better than Gusto. We know this, chat. We know this 100%. Josh fits the system far better than Gusto. By the way, chat, keep smashing up the likes. We're on 118 likes. Let's get this up to 150. There's 254 in the building. Big up to every single one of you. Make sure you keep smashing the likes and make sure you keep subscribing to the channel, chat. There's loads of you in there. There must be a few that aren't subscribed. So yeah, let's run it up. Get these likes up and keep subscribing. Bro, Gusto's not on the same level. Gusto is an overlapping fullback. Brilliant. Gusto in the inverted role in a Maresca system, Josh is better. He's got better attributes for it. Yeah, look, it is a win-win situation. However, if Reece James goes down injured, we're fucked. Or if Gusto goes down injured, we're fucked. Because James is not going to play every single game. Yeah, but there's always exceptions to the rule. Generally speaking, Acheampong is a much better fit for this system than Gusto is. But yeah, I agree. I don't think the loan experience would be a bad thing. I really don't think it would be terrible at all. I think it would be all right. I think it would be okay. But I also feel that Acheampong is definitely ready to be the backup right back next season. But if for whatever reason Maresca and Chelsea don't want to do that, he will have pretty much the same role that he had last season, maybe with a few more minutes. So a loan to Palace makes sense in that regard. Playing in the Premier League most weeks, he'd play Europa League football potentially. He could also play right centre-back or right back. He wouldn't play every week, but he'd definitely play a damn sight more than he would at Chelsea. But we should be saying no, and he should be going to be back up for Reece James. But he won't be. He won't be. I mean, look, Acheampong could play back three, could play back four, could play centre back and right back. You know, these are the options that he's got. These are the options that he's got. These are the options at his disposal, chap. Yeah, something like that. You know, it could have a similar sort of impact to Acheampong to Colwell at Arsenal. 100%. It could absolutely have a similar level of impact to that. Yeah, I know, mate. Agendas have got to run. Don't let facts get in the way of a good agenda that people have got to run. You know, agendas are going to run, whether people agree or yeah, people are going to run their agendas, chat. That's what they do. Yeah, Maresca doesn't like Lavia as well. I'll tell you what, I don't think Maresca likes any of this squad, according to some of you lot in the chat. I don't think he likes anyone. But there's also, yeah, look, we touched on Nwaneri, we've touched on Madueke. The Morgan Rogers stuff. Would I start Pedro over Jackson? Yeah, definitely some weeks. I mean, if you're talking about tomorrow at centre forward, it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. I think he probably will go as João Pedro. I wouldn't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. I wouldn't have an issue with it at all. But this Morgan Rogers stuff, by the way, I know Dan briefly mentioned Morgan Rogers earlier. We didn't really go into it. Still maintains there. Chelsea are big admirers of Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. Is this just chat, or do we seriously see a situation where later in the window, could Chelsea go and try something for Morgan Rogers? Could we try, chat? Could we try? It's certainly a possibility. It's certainly a possibility. I mean, I don't know for definite if that's going to be the case, but I don't know. It's still there. It's still there, and it's still a possibility, chat. It's still a possibility. Rogers is very expensive, no doubt about it. I just wonder, and I don't believe this is going to happen at all, but I just wonder whether Chelsea might try something later in the window. I just wonder if we're going to just, do you know what, be like, fuck it. Let's just go for a madness and let's try it. Let's go for a madness and let's give this a bash. Because I think it's definitely possible. It's possible, and we could definitely give them something to think about. However, having signed João Pedro, where does Morgan Rogers play at Chelsea? Let's say, chat, we sign Morgan Rogers. Where does he play? Where does he play? Because I look at it and I just think, does he play on the left? Does he play on the right? Does he play centrally? Like, can Morgan Rogers and João Pedro coexist in the same team? Like, it's a real tricky one, isn't it? I don't think so. If Enkunku leaves, maybe. But to be honest, though, we've been told that João Pedro is the Enkunku replacement. And yeah, sure, you want the best players to come, and I do agree. Let the manager decide that. 100%. I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. But it's going to be an interesting one. It is going to be an interesting one. I don't know what the best situation is. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough, chat. I'm sort of starting to think similarly. I'm not really sure if there is a space. Is there a space for him? I don't know. We need a new goalkeeper and we need a left back. Nah, bro, that's fully ruled out. That's fully ruled out. Yeah, no, Rodgers has played left, right, and centrally last season. But then, isn't that exactly what Joao Pedro is going to be for us? That kind of utility man. Isn't that exactly what he's going to be? So, yeah, I don't really understand it. No, I'll be honest, guys. I still feel that this is just not going to happen. We like him, fine, but I wouldn't rule out an approach or something like that. But I view it as very, very unlikely that we are going to do anything in regards to Morgan Rodgers. Now, bro, I would get Rodrigo because we actually need an out-and-out. We need more depth on that left-hand side. And let's be real, Rodrigo's a better footballer on the left-hand side than Rodgers is. But because Rodgers played for the Man City Academy, that's gonna mean that we would probably go for him over Rodrigo. I think that's pretty clear at this point in time, chat. I think that's very, very clear that is exactly what we would do. It's exactly what we'd do. There's no doubt about it. But look, we maintain that interest in Morgan Rodgers. I personally view it as a pipe dream. I'd absolutely love it, but there's no way. There's absolutely no way that I see it happening. Not a chance, chat. Not a chance. Are we going to be entertaining? Are we going to be looking at Morgan Rodgers to Chelsea? No way. Do I think we go back in for Mohamed Kudus? No. I don't see that. I do look at it really as a one-horse race. I look at it as a one-horse race for Mohamed Kudus. Only Tottenham have made an offer, and it seems like only Tottenham are in for him. No, I don't think. I think he's back fit now, but I think the plan for Kellyman is a loan to the Championship. The plan for Kellyman is a loan to the Championship. So yeah, we wait and see what happens there. I was looking for something though. Let me find it now. Oh yeah, we got a bit of news on outgoings. Sorry, that's what I was looking at. News on Renato Vega and news on Axel Disasi. So according to German publication Bild, Bayern may need to pay as much as £30 million to sign Vega, who they consider as someone with tremendous potential. Chelsea are aware of Bayern's interest, but as of now, there's been no offers or something, no negotiations. Let's see what this is saying. Let's give this a quick read. Bayern Munich could sign a new centre-back this summer, and they have been linked with a move for Chelsea defender Renato Vega. The Portuguese defender joined the Blues from FC Basel. Yeah, we know that shit. Boring. It's evident that Vincent Kompany does not rate Kim Min-jae highly enough, and his potential exit is inevitable at some point during the window. In case he leaves Bayern could replace him with Vega. According to a report from Bild, Bayern may need to pay a fee of around £30 million to sign Vega, who they consider as someone with tremendous potential. Chelsea are aware of Bayern's interest, but as of now, there have been no negotiations. Do you know what's really annoying? Is that I actually like Vega. I actually really like him. I think he's a top player. But he wants to play centre-back. And can we really make a case for Renato Vega getting the minutes that he wants in a World Cup year at centre-back? Can we really make that case for him to do that at Chelsea? I don't think we can. I don't think we can, chap. I like him. I really like him. And I want him. I would like him to stay at Chelsea, but he wants to play centre-back. He wants regular minutes at centre-back. And unfortunately, he's not going to get those minutes at centre-back. So it looks like Renato Vega to Bayern Munich could very much be a possibility. There's been no negotiations so far, but Bayern do like him. Bayern like him, and Bayern like him a lot. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, a very, very interesting one. Yeah, Vega is better than. Yeah, he probably is better than Badiashile. But the point I'm making is that is Vega going to get minutes at centre back regularly ahead of Colwell, Fofana, Chalobah, and Tosin? You could say he's better, even if you say he's better than Tosin or he's better than Chalobah or he's better than both of them. He's still not, in my opinion, he's still not going to get the minutes that he wants at Chelsea. So, regardless of whether he fits the profile, whether he suits us and all that, because I think he does, we aren't getting him. We're not going to be able to keep him. We aren't going to keep him. You know, we're not going to keep him. So, yeah, it's not one that got away. It's just kind of one where this was a good signing. We're going to make money on him, but it would have been decent. It just would have been decent if we could have kept him. It would have been decent if we could have kept him. No, Chelsea are playing tonight. Yeah, we've got semi-final tonight against Fluminense. Yep, semi-final settings tonight against Fluminense. Yes, we do. Yeah, look, Fofana, let's hope he can stay fit. That's why I still think we need one more centre-back, chat. That's why I still think we need one more centre-back. But yeah, look, we're gonna best part of double our money on Vega, or just under. We're probably gonna just under that. But yeah, a bit of a shame. But you know, if we can't give him what he wants, then fair enough. We move on. We bank the money. We make a significant profit, and we go and try and find someone else. Who that someone else is, I don't know. Who that someone else is, I don't know. That's going to be tricky. I don't fully know who that someone else is going to be. Jarell Hato is literally the only player we've been linked with. And even that has been very, very loose links. Very, very loose links. There's been nothing concrete on that whatsoever for a considerable amount of weeks now. A considerable amount of weeks. So, yeah, I don't really understand what's going on there. I don't understand what's going on there at all. What is going on there? It's a strange one. It is a strange one, but hey, maybe Chelsea are planning something that we don't know about. But yeah, odd. Very odd, to say the least. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not... Look, if he left, fine. You know, he left to go and do what he felt was right for his career. No, I don't have an issue with that. Isn't it controversial to say... Acheampong is a better fit for the system. Look, I've never said that Delap's not a good fit for the system. That I would prefer someone who has got a bit more, you know, experience. Someone who's, you know, is more of an actual proper bagsman, knows where the back of the net is, etc., etc. But look, he could end up doing very well. I don't think we'll get as much as 40 million for him. I don't think that. But let's wait and see how this Renato Vega to Bayern Munich stuff develops. But going from one defender who's probably going to leave to another defender who's going to leave. And that is looking like Axel Disasi. And it looks like we found a potential buyer or two. Absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. A potential buyer or two for Axel Disasi, and Chelsea are said to want around 30 million euro or 25 million euros or 30 million euros, sorry, for the defender. Which is interesting. Let me just find the news quickly on that, chat. Let me find the news on that. Let's have a quick look. Oh, fuck me. Where is it? Let's just do it on this. Hold on. There we go. From Fabrice Hawkins. Villarreal contacted the French defender Axel Disasi. Negotiations are ongoing. Newcastle are keeping an eye on him and other Premier League and Italian clubs monitoring him. Chelsea will ask around 30 million euros. Disasi is expected to leave this summer. Do you know what? 30 million euros, 25 million quid roughly. That's not a big thing. That's not a big thing. That's not a big loss. That's not a big loss. Yeah, no, I know it's from yesterday. It's from last night, but I wasn't live last night, so I'm covering it today. We paid 38.8 million, but actually, in terms of, you know, how they do all this shit with book value and all that bollocks, I don't really know how that works and whatnot. But we got 20 million quid, 25 million quid. We got the 5 million loan fee as well for him in January. You end up probably getting 30 million. So if you get 30 million with loan fee and actual fee this summer, then that isn't bad at all. You know, you've taken an 8.8 million loss. You know, and it probably isn't even that, but that's what it would potentially come out as. That's what it would potentially come out as. But I don't see it as that. Yeah, no, Disasi, if you play a certain way and in a certain system, Disasi, perfect. Not going to be a problem at all. Not going to be a problem at all. It really won't be. And look, whether it's Villarreal, whether he goes to Serie A, whether he goes to Newcastle, I don't know. He's going to want to go somewhere where he can play regularly. He's not going to do that at Chelsea anymore. And I think, actually, do you know what? 30 million euros, that isn't bad. For Disasi, that's not bad, chat. That isn't bad at all. So now things are starting. Now things are starting to move forward. Chat. So yeah, I expect this to be one that develops over the coming days and weeks. Disasi will want to get something sorted out quickly. I want to get into pre-season with a club and start training and get the minutes under his belt and whatnot. Let's just get that money. Let's bank that money, and then it's job done. And so he can cash in big time. I don't know. You'd be surprised. Again, you know, they could probably commit to spending that much. Depends how much up front. Depends what would be on add-ons. But yeah, look, there's definitely a deal to be done for Disasi. Of course there is. Of course there's a deal to be done for Disasi. We will do a deal for him. Let's just wait and see whether we're gonna. Bro, that's got nothing to do with what's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with anything? Yeah, no, I would go along with that to a certain extent. Absolutely. I would absolutely go along with that to a certain extent. 100% I would. It's all about getting the right profiles and the right fits for the system. That's what this is all about, chat. Maybe we do. It's a possibility. Absolutely, it can't be ruled out. But yeah, look, maybe we do get that. Maybe we do get that. I don't know for certain, but yeah, maybe we do. But let's move away from Disasi because someone's talked about Enkunku. And there's news on Enkunku. Bayern Munich hold talks with Pini Zahavi to sign Christopher Enkunku. Now, we know that Bayern have missed out on a few targets. Jamal Musiala is now out for a few months with that injury that he picked up against PSG. In the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup. So yeah, they're going to need someone, and it looks like it could be back in for Enkunku. This from Christian Falk, with Bayern Munich insider. Bayern are back in the race to sign Christopher Enkunku. United are also reportedly interested in signing the 27-year-old who's currently at the Club World Cup. The German champions aim to strengthen their forward areas and have identified Luis Diaz as their main target. However, they've not lost interest in Enkunku, and the French international could become a serious option for them, with Chelsea needing to sell a few players. Back in June, we reported that Enkunku was part of Maresca's long-term. It was not part of Maresca's long-term plan. Chelsea insist on selling Enkunku permanently. The Red Devils have already signed Matheus Cunha, yet boring. We understand that Bayern are back in the race for Enkunku, with the club desperately needing to sign a forward following their injury to Musiala. As I said, Barcelona were interested in signing Enkunku. No, they didn't do that at all. Bayern is another option for Enkunku. Chelsea rejected the proposal of a loan with a buy option in the past, and the Blues are only interested in selling him directly. Bayern have started talks with Nkunku's agent. After Leroy Sané left to join Galatasaray, Nkunku's name has resurfaced as a potential option again. Max Erbel, who I think Sporting Director, held talks with Enkunku in January. Bayern weren't willing to pay 70 million euros for him. He knows him well from his time at Leipzig, and the Frenchman could become a genuine target for Bayern in the coming days. So yeah, I suspect that Enkunku to Bayern Munich is probably a move that's going to happen. I would say, look, if you can get £40 million for him, fantastic. 40 or 45 million. I think you take that, snap your hand off at it, great deal. Because you're not going to get the 52 million quid that you want. You're absolutely not getting that 52 million. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Oh, I wouldn't say it was a done deal. There's definite interest in there. And it could well turn out to be a deal that gets done. If he look, to be honest, I haven't got an issue if he starts tonight. I don't really have that much of an issue. I don't think he will, but I don't have a huge issue with it. I don't have a huge issue with it if he starts. But again, we're only looking for permanent offers. So teams are probably just going to wait, knowing we're looking to sell. And then they'll wait till the end of the window and try and get a deal on the cheap. That's what I reckon a lot of teams will try to do with a number of players, chat, that we're trying to get rid of. That's what I could easily see happening. That's what I could easily see. That's what I could easily see. All the stuff with Ekatike has gone so quiet. I don't see any of that happening. It's gonna be interesting, chat. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how much these players end up going for and where they actually go. Bro, we're not doing no loans for him. No loans are being entertained. Look, we like him, but I personally don't see a deal being done for him. I personally don't see a deal being done for him. Yet Garnacho's always on the list. Garnacho's always on the list. It's really fucking annoying. Really annoying. But he's always there. I'd still be surprised. Chat. I really would be. I don't see that as one that would happen. I'd be surprised, but it's not totally impossible. Not totally impossible at all. So we'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see, chat, on that. I don't. I'm not saying that. I'm not ruling it out that we might not try and do a madness, but I personally don't see it, guys. I personally don't see it. But you never know. You never know. Never say never in football, but I feel this situation is unlikely right now. I feel the situation is unlikely, chat. But Chelsea have done mad things in a transfer window before. It doesn't mean that they can't do mad things again. No, that's not true, bro. Because Joao Pedro is already the replacement for Enkunku. They've already said that. Joao Pedro is already the replacement for Enkunku. But yeah, I think there's a very good chance of Enkunku going to Bayern Munich. I think there's a very, very good chance of Enkunku going to Munich. And it makes sense. You know, it makes sense. Interesting. Let's quickly bring this up on Kudus. Bro, that is the this is the question that we'd all love the answer to, but we don't have it. How the fuck is this guy still here? How is he still here? How? Big mystery. Oh, but anyway, I'm going to bring this Kudus thing up. According to West Ham Central, I don't know how reliant West Ham Central is, but a club source is not convinced that Spurs will return with an improved offer for Kudus, whether informal or formal, and that introduces real doubt. The players' reps seem to be doing a lot of the talking, trying to get a move. West Ham are reportedly asking for 65 million. So again, I don't know how true that is or isn't. I suspect West Ham probably are asking for around 60 or 65 million. I suspect they are looking for that sort of price for Kudus. I don't think that Chelsea will do an offer for Kudus. I could be wrong. If it turns out there's a chance we can get him, then sure, why not? But yeah, yeah, they might do. They might do. But again, they could easily change their minds. Look, I don't want to say that Kudus to Chelsea is fully buried. I don't think it's fully buried, but it's going to be entirely up to us whether we go for him or not. It's going to be entirely up to us whether we go for him, and that's what we need to. That's what we need to think about. That's what we need to think about. Yeah, that's what we need to think about, chat. I I do agree that West Ham would probably sell to us for less than they'd sell to Spurs. Yeah, look, I think we will sell Noni. We will sell Noni. Yeah, I'd say, look, £65 million package, 65 million all in. Definitely not 65 M's up front. West Ham do hate Spurs. They do. There's no escaping that. West Ham do absolutely hate Tottenham. It's kind of mad, but yeah, they do hate them. They do hate Tottenham, chat. They do hate them, but yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, guys. Yeah, but they won't take them as part of a deal. They won't take them as part of the deal. West Ham want straight cash. I think we've been down this road before. We've been down this road before. Yeah, I mean, look, again, do we actually need Kudus? I don't know. Do I see? Look, I think he could. I think he'll feature at some point. He'll be in the squad now. Whether he comes off the bench or whether he starts or whatever it is, or whether he plays at all, he'll be in the match day squad. I don't think there's any doubt that he'll be in the match day squad, chat. Yeah, all good, all good. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, he'll be in the match day squad. I'd be shocked if he was left out of the start, left out of the entire match squad. I would find that strange. I don't think that will be the case. Let's have a look if there's any other news to go through. Let's have a look. I don't think there is. Let's have a look. Nope, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Right, chat. We're going to round this one up here. We're going to round this one out here. Big up to everyone that's tuned in. Big up to Potts, as always, for jumping on. Guys, make sure you smash up the likes on the stream on the way out. Run these likes up. We're 30 likes away from 200. Let's see if we can get those on the way out. So smash the likes. Subscribe if you're new around here. Please smash up the subscribe button. Guys, big game tonight. Semi-final against Fluminense. Hopefully we can make it to the final. Hopefully we don't get dumped out. Would be gutting. Really would be a real big shame. But I'm confident we can get the job done. I'm confident we'll be heading to New York this week for the final. But yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Big up for the support. Thank you for the support. I'll be back later on today with a match reaction, hopefully. If not, match reaction will drop in the morning. And yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy watching the game tonight. And I'll catch all of you lovely lot soon. Smash up the like, subscribe if you're new, up the Chelsea, and I'm out. Peace.